Hey everyone, Suzi here, and today we're playing Watcher of Realms. For today's video, we're going to talk about Rygar. Who's better, Rygar or Torodor? Alright, so a lot of us are summoning for this guy. I mean, hell, it just as a hero collector, you kind of want to get all the legendary lords anyway. Let's be honest, you just want to get all the legendaries, period. And I do think he brings a little bit of a different value than Torodor. While Torodor might be still the highest potential for your team to do more damage, Rygar is a fighter, so you might be able to use his utility as being another fighter to place versus a tank in some situations. But I actually want to pull up an official post from the game and talk about this. So here. So we have a Hero Lab post from Watcher of Realms comparing the Nightmare Lords. So this is going to be tips from War Cabinet member Newbie96. So I'm going to go through and read this and see what they have to say. And you guys can let me know in the comments if you agree, what you think. Do you like this guide? And I'm going to continue showing fun stuff like this. I like to show, just like I said, some of the official content and kind of see what the game has to say and the information that they want to put out in their socials. So in this test, we will focus on comparing Nightmare Lords. Torodor is a Nightmare Lord who can be summoned from both classic summons and ancient summons, where Rygar can only be summoned from ancient summons. Alright, so Torodor, his Lord skill and Rygar's Lord skill, you know, the basics are the same, with increasing faction team members' basic attributes by 15%. But for Torodor, every time a faction team member is deployed... Wait, that's a... Okay, and this part is the same. Every time a faction team member is deployed, all deployed faction team members gain 5, 10, 20, and 35% attack speed retrospectively, up to 35%. However, their healing received are reduced by 15%. That's also the same for both lords. So the difference is, for Torodor, faction team members' basic attacks have a 30% chance of landing an extra hit. So if you have a team with lots of attack speed, again, which normally you do for Nightmare Fighters, you have a 30% chance of always landing an extra hit throughout the entire battle. So Rygar is, when Rygar is the Lord and the ultimate is triggered, his ultimate, faction team members gain buffs. Basic attack damage is increased by 25%, and each basic attack restores 3% HP. The applied buffs last until the end of the ultimate. This is only when Rygar uses his ultimate, but the potential during that time could be better, right? They're getting a buff, or they're adding survivability, which I think is quite helpful too, especially when they have their healing reduced because of being the Lord to begin with. But there's been a lot of debate about which one is actually better. Most people prefer Torodor still over the new Rygar. However, from what I saw, it's a very similar actual final team damage, total stats, whatever points, depending on what you're doing, with both lords. So let's see what this has to show us. Alright, so this guild boss test for Nightmare 4, they compared the same team but with Torodor or with Rygar as the Lord. So this is with him only serving as the Lord unit. So okay, this is interesting. What about if he's the one doing damage as well? Because I think his damage is going to offset the fact that this is lower, right? So if he's only the Lord and he's not placed, how does he boost, or what is the score? And this is with Twyla, Arrogance, Lust, and Salazar. This was a score of 5,200 or 1,000 blood drops, right? And then with Torodor, again, only serving as the Lord, not being placed, it was 55, almost 56,000. So from this test, it's clear that Torodor's Lord skill is better. The second test will use the same team, but the Lords will be deployed and actually deal damage. So I think this is where things even out even better, is my assumption. Or where maybe even Rygar could take the lead if built really well, or if you get his awakenings up. Let's see. All right, yeah, this test exactly shows much more with Rygar, 64,000, versus 58,000 with Torodor as a placed unit. But it also depends, like, did they actually build Torodor for pure DPS because he's a tank? I hope so, for the sake of this test. They didn't really show us what the gear or anything was. It is just one random test as well. You can take that with a grain of salt, I guess. However, because Rygar is a fighter, if you don't need a lord for your battle, like Guild Boss 1, why would you place... Did I say a lord? If you don't need a defender, why would you place a defender? Guild Boss 2, okay, we could use a defender to be the one to absorb the hits. And maybe do some stuns too, like Torodor can as well. But that doesn't mean someone else in the team couldn't take those big HP smacks as well. And Rygar could be in the team itself. So I think this really does show the potential. I think this is a pretty good example. This is what I was thinking when I said that I think they're like, Torodor is not necessarily always better. It just depends on where we're using them. And if you don't need a defender, just use the fighter and get pure damage from him too, versus someone who, a defender that's definitely not doing as much damage. Even when you build him as a DPS, there's still much better damage potential from Rygar himself. So the overall conclusion is, if we consider only the Lord skill, Torodor is better in most content. Torodor's Lord skill is always active, unlike Rygar's skill, which is only active during his ultimate. However, in some content, Rygar's Lord skill can be better due to the lifesteal it provides. When comparing both heroes, Rygar is a better choice, although it depends on the content. For the Semra boss, a tank is required in a good team, and the Nightmare heroes are very popular, so Torodor is a good choice. However, if you already have another tank, Rygar becomes a better option. Like, I don't know. It really does depend on how tough your people are to take the hits. I could see people using some of the HP-based healers also as the tank for that big Semra hit, but they tend to still not have as much defense and survivability as a tank itself, as a defender. So that's where Torodor really comes in. For content such as Arena, Immortal Codex, and Guild Boss, Drake's Chasm, Rygar performs better. However, Rygar must be deployed to activate his Lord skill, where Torodor's skill remains active at all times, even if he's not deployed. Alrighty, so that wraps up this little comparison and this little discussion regarding the, Lord comparisons. So, I will see if I can find some other Lord comparison videos, and I will link those in this description as well, and a pinned comment to support the other creators who have already made those videos, so you can really see a bunch of different information and then base your decision there. But I do think at the end of the day, it makes sense that it would be varied, you know, like they're very close, they're on par with each other, depending on which area of the game you're fighting. For Titanic Ruins, use Torodor. For Drake's Chasm, use Rygar. And for other content where it's all fighter-based and you don't need a defender, you would just use Rygar, because that makes sense anyway. So I like this. I think this was a good overall comparison, just to get a general idea. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video.